Hello guys and girls, Raj here, back with another video. So today's video, we have a special treat. So we are not going to talk about regular tech stuff. We have a very special guest. I get this question a lot that Raj, AI/ML is really hot right now, and I want to transition to AI/ML. How do I do it? So I thought, you know what is the better way to do it than to hear from the experts himself? So I have a guest in my show who is a AI/ML specialist, but I am gonna pass it to him and let him introduce himself. Vadim, welcome to the show. My
Hey,
viewers really appreciate it, and can you please introduce yourself?
yeah. Hey, Raj, thanks for having me. Hey, Raj listeners, it's a pleasure to be here on the show. So, as Raj introduced me, I'm a AML specialist and I work side by side with Raj. We actually work together quite extensively in the past few years. So, I'm a part of the AWS AML team and I work in ML space day in and day out. So, today I'll be happy to to talk about good, bad, and the ugly of AML. So, and then share some insights from my personal experience, as well as some follow-up links for you to get up to speed with some of the latest trend in AML. All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Vadim, why don't you tell us, like, how did you start your career? And I think it will be very useful for the viewers, like give a little bit of background how you used to be in a different career path, and then you switched to AIML.
Yeah, it's a good question. So you guys have to know that my career path was a mess. I was always like very attracted to the new and trendy things. So I changed my careers a couple of times. I guess another thing you have to know about me is that I'm generally lazy. I was always looking for the where to put the minimum efforts to get the maximum output. And my college degree was in telco, so I was like working in telecommunications, or at least studying to become a telecommunication engineer. Unfortunately, at that time, I lived in Belarus, my home country, and it was not necessarily most stellar career path to go to the telecommunication large telco operator. You couldn't make a lot of money doing telco. So I realized that I probably right after college, I want to slightly shift the gears. And then I entered the IT outsource market. I guess many of you on the show knows exactly what it is. I would go as far as to say that many of you started in this. So that was my career start, and I was doing for first couple of years. I was doing a lot of QA automation. Ruby was big at this time, so I was like using the Ruby on Rails, and then after a couple of years of doing this like QA and automation and CI/CD, and you have to remember that DevOps just started at that time, so I was like naturally attracted to DevOps and like overall movement. But then after a couple of years, I realized that, hey, I want to try something, a little bit different. And I started gradually moving towards like some management roles. And specifically, I was attracted to product management. And again, that was one of those things fairly new at that time. We're talking about early 2010s. And everybody was talking about like how cool it is to be a product manager. Next couple of years I spent doing product management for various customers. Again, I was working for the consulting company here in the US called EPAM, but then I was working with different enterprise customers, specifically in the financial services as a product manager.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after that, I realized, and I always had an inclination towards math and a little bit of science. And then at this time, AI/ML started becoming a thing. So it moved from these, campuses of huge corporations such as Google, who invested a lot into the AI/ML in early 2000s. It started gradually spreading into the smaller players or mid-sized players. And that was a time when a lot of online mass online courses started like my favorite one at that time was Andrew Ng's Coursera course on the ML. So I started looking, catching up with some videos, catching up with some math, and I realized this is where I pretty much want to move. And then it took me roughly 5 years to get to where I am right now as a senior AML specialist, to say, on AWS. But yeah, so far so good.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so following up on that answer, Vadim. So can you specifically talk about how did you transition to cloud without having a cloud education in college?
Yeah, it's a good question again. So one thing about college, based on my experience, is that college is great as a way to get some fundamental knowledges and build some relationship networks. But college doesn't necessarily alone will make you a great software engineer or cloud architect. You have to start building something yourself, and that's exactly the path I took. When I was doing like a consulting job and the cloud was starting in 2010s again, I was genuinely attracted to this concept. I was like, I'm naturally very curious. So I started looking to the cloud. I realized that, hey, this is going to be a big thing. So I want to try it myself. And I started building some, simple pet projects just to keep myself entertained on the weekend. And that's how I started. And then all of a sudden I saw customers who started asking about some cloud skills, and that was a perfect moment for me to raise my hand. And then I started learning a lot of things about cloud on my job. So that helped a lot.
Okay, so that's a lot of good information for them. But one of the questions our viewers ask is they are in full-time IT jobs and they want to switch to AI/ML. So what exact study path would you recommend for people with full-time jobs to switch to AI/ML? Like what certification path, what books, what services, etc.?
Yeah, sure. Great question. And there is no single right answer. Let's put it this way. So I'm going to share my path and what worked for me. Now I hope it will work for most of you, but we'll see. I'll be curious to learn your feedback. So first of all, and this is applicable not necessarily to AI/ML, but to any domain which you want to learn. I recommend to study fundamentals. In case of AI/ML, we're talking about the math, theory of probabilities, calculus. These are all important building blocks. And then, of course, learning the specific theory of machine learning. Now, what I found is that, yes, you can take the video course, and there are many of them right now, but I would argue that, at least for me, a good book works better. So I'll drop a few links, and then Raj will probably post it in the comments, to the books which I found good, and they start from the very basics and then quickly build on top of the basic blocks. And then these books will give you a pretty good overview of the AI/ML field, right? They won't talk about the specific, the most recent models, but you don't have to know them. Like, in fact, you have to know like the basic fundamentals. And there is a very practical reason why you should read books and learn fundamentals, because that's precisely what you will be asked during the interview, right? No one cares about whether you learn this particular model architecture, but they do care that you understand how to build a model from scratch. So learning fundamentals, reading good books it worked for me. And then another thing is that, and I already mentioned this, you have to put your learnings into practice, right? That's how you build the good, robust knowledge base, right? So what it means is that find things you're passionate about, find the machine learning techniques or features which you found amusing, and then try to build something. And then building this again goes back to building a good GitHub portfolio, right? That's also helpful. Now, when you're on the job, right, of course, the problem will be with the time, right? Because most likely you'll spend 8 hours a day, and then you go back and then you have some, you know, personal time, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want to sit and code, you know, all the night in your 30s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in order to address this, think about like building some routine, all right,
Mm-hmm.
and then allocating at least 30 minutes, you know, to study something related to ML every day. So you riding on the subway, read about ML, or listen to a podcast of, you know, read a paper. That helps. So that will help you to kind of have this repeatable process to learn. And once you establish this, you will see, you know, you will probably naturally gravitate to one area or another. So, and then you will decide what specific area of AML you want to pursue.
Gotcha. And on that, yeah, we'll put the links on the descriptions. Is there a specific order that the viewers should study, or they could start with any of those fundamental books that we're gonna put in?
Um, in general, I suggest to understand, first of all, the math calculus. It is important because otherwise you will quickly get lost in all this terminology, right? Once you get this math out of your way and statistics, then the next thing is that understand the basic terminology, right? And then the third thing would be, you know, once you know the basics of the machine learning and fundamentals behind it, you know, pick one of the domains of the machine learning and probably put some extra effort into this. And then because the machine learning domain is such a vast area, and there is a lot of things to learn, right? It is impossible for one human being just to learn it in a condensed time, right? So pick one thing you're passionate about. It can be computer vision, or it can be natural language processing, or it can be just a vanilla machine learning, like a regression analysis or
Mm-hmm.
classification problems, and just started diving a little bit deeper. So
Mm-hmm.
you will have some confidence. And then during the interview process, again, it is, in my opinion, and I'm doing quite a bit of interviews these days. And as an interviewer, I know that it is impossible to know everything in the machine learning, and I don't know it, and probably no one knows, or very few people knows. But it is important for me to see that the person knows a specific area very well, because that's a good and strong signal for me to know that this person will be able to dive deeper in the area on his job or her job, you know, once we hire him or her. Right?
Gotcha, gotcha. No, that's good. Um, Talking about jobs, so what is the hardest part of being a AI ML specialist?
Uh, well, I don't have a hardest part. There are some boring parts, right? So a boring, and you know, when I say boring, typically boring means it's hard to get, you know, you're doing some boring stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and there is some boring stuff. You know, let's say when you the thing about AI/ML, so our perspective is very skewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear AI/ML term and you think about, oh, I'm going to build a brand new model architecture and I'm going to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, do all this research. In reality, that's rarely the case, especially in enterprises. In most cases, you're already reusing someone else's models, and in many cases, you will be even using the exact same weights or the already pre-trained model and just applying it to your use case. So this cool AI/ML research part of job, it's a very small fraction of your time, unless you're doing ML research for one of the large corporations. However, this you know, AI/ML is surrounded by a lot of different other activities which you need to get right. For instance, get your data right. And writing these data cleansing, feature engineering scripts may not be the funniest part of your job,
Mm-hmm.
but it is, you know, you cannot go without it. Right now, granted, in many companies, once you land your first job, in many companies, you will find out that there's, you know, dedicated teams who are just doing data engineering day in and day out, right? So you may be able to leverage them to get the data for you. But in many other cases, you will be the one working on the data, and sometimes it can be a little bit boring. But once you get into the flow, and once you see the goal, what you're trying to do, then I don't know if there is any particular hard part. Now, another thing you need to be curious, because so once you get to AML or rather job, right, and working for the large company in AML domain, you at some point of time you will feel overwhelmed because there will be so many materials, and then there are so many smart people, and it is easy to kind of lose your confidence in yourself because you're surrounded by the smartest folks. So just be ready to kind of resist this and build your own confidence. It is an important part of the job. And then the other thing is that you have to be genuinely curious, because you will learn a lot. There's a lot of research going on, and if you want to stay up to date, if you want to be very relevant in what you're doing, you have to learn consistently. So if you think that I will learn for a year, 2 years AML, and then I'll land the job and I won't learn anything, that's certainly not the case. Once you start learning about AML, you will continue. You will have to continue learning about this every day, because, and then that's a cool part about this. We see that the companies invest in a lot of stuff a lot of new research and development is going in AML space. So for next 10 years, I'm very bullish on the AML research and the market, because once the people start investing money, they need people in order to build some products. So then that's why I'm very bullish on the AML job market.
Yeah, no, that's well said, Vadim, because in Amazon, one of the biggest LP is, especially for solutions architect, is learn and be curious. So this is applicable for all other areas as well. So for the viewers who are listening, even if you don't want to be in AI/ML, you want to be in containers, serverless, database, you always have to learn, because it's moving so fast. If you think, oh, I'm just going to study this 1 year, get this job, and then be comfortable, that's not going to be the case, because it is moving at breakneck speed.
But that's a cool part of the job, right? That's what we enjoy.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and that's one of my favorite leadership principles in Amazon. Learn and be curious. So what does your day look like day to day as a AI/ML specialist? Like, do you have to spring out a white paper and then pen, and then you have to do a bunch of calculus, mathematics? You have to get a huge calculator and start calculating stuff? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah. Well, no. The short answer is no. That's not how my day looks like. In reality, is that when we say AI/ML space, like I mentioned before, the actual ML research is fairly small part of the job. You have to know a lot of other things. I already mentioned that you need to know the data engineering side. You need to know how to generally develop applications, how to put the applications in the production, because in the end of the day, your model is your application. So all these general principles, how people develop web applications, they're also relevant for the machine learning engineering. And that's exactly why the hottest part of the hottest subdomain in this AI/ML today is MLOps, because people quickly realize that it's one thing to develop the model, but then another thing is to run your model with a good SLAs in a production every day, 24/7. It is not easy, right? And that's why my day, I don't spend necessarily a lot of time reading the white papers. I do read, and you have to follow the latest developments and latest trend, but I also learn a lot of around the AI/ML, specifically in data engineering, MLOps, and MLOps to a certain extent is built on top of the DevOps. So I talk a lot about building CI/CD pipelines, plugging your model into your existing CI/CD pipelines. So these are all areas. And then in terms of what exactly I do as a AML specialist SA for AWS, well, I talk a lot with the customers, and generally customers they have a very different maturity in terms of their AML expertise. So with some customers, we talk about like very bleeding edge research, right? With other customers, we are helping them to just get on the right path to develop the first AML prototype. So, and of course, engaging with different types of customers require, different types of activities. But usually it's a lot of consulting, a lot of talking with the customer, understanding their specific use case, and then helping them to understand which technology to use. But even before talking about technology, it's very important also to understand whether the use case is relevant, whether machine learning is the right fit for this use case. And it's not necessarily the answer is yes. In some cases, it is not, right? Don't do AML for this use case. Just code it out, use the rules. And that's perfectly fine because as Raj, we're super customer centric in AWS. So we don't sell stuff just because we want to sell stuff. And if we don't see a good ML fit, then we just say no, do something else. You don't need ML. In general, there are a couple of deliverables I produce consistently. One thing is, I apologize, this isn't sound of New York. But so one thing is, as any SA, we're expected to produce a solutions architecture documentation. Typically, it's a high-level diagrams capturing the main components. Frequently, it's also CI/CD diagrams. How do you structure your environments? How do you promote your models between the environments? How do you, where do you have the automated gate checks where you have manual gate checks? So this type of documentation. And then the other things that I oftentimes I'm doing the prototypes and I'm sharing the specific deliverables. So after the show, we'll put some links, and one of the links will be my GitHub profile. And then you will see some of the examples which I built for my customer first. And then I realized, the other people may benefit from them. And that's why I publish them on my GitHub. So this type of prototyping is probably one of my favorite part of the job, because you have a specific goal, you focusing on a very practical use case, you build in, you show in to the customer, and then hopefully in one day you'll see something like this working in the customer production. So that's a pretty cool feeling.
Definitely. I concur. So talking about your side project, so you actually have a very cool app that you built. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, like what that app does? And I'll put some links and stuff as well.
So a little bit of background. So I already mentioned that I'm originally from Belarus, and today my home country is going through some political turbulence. And being in New York, I wanted to see how I can help. And there are not many things I can do well. And probably designing and building software products is one of the things I can do okay. So what we did with the team of my compatriots, we built a Telegram bot which helps people who suffered from the political oppressions, and that's a problem we're having right now in Belarus, to help each other, right? Or rather, people who are from Belarus and who live, let's say, in the US or in Europe, they can help people who are currently in Belarus and being oppressed and without money, etc. So we built a Telegram bot, and for those who don't know, Telegram is a very popular messaging platform. And one of the cool features about Telegram that this is like probably one of the most secure messaging platforms. And that's a reason why it's widely popular in countries like Belarus with a problems with internet access, or Iran or Russia. Russia actually tried to ban Telegram for 2 years. They couldn't, they gave up. So it is a cool messaging platform. So what we did, we built a Telegram bot, which helps people who has like money and desire to help other people to connect and have this peer-to-peer charity where one people, let's say living in New York or California, helping the individual in Belarus. And typically what it means is that we're sending groceries to these people, sending some home stuff. And the way how I described it works like a Tinder, in a sense that, you want to help and then someone needs your help. So you swipe until you get the match based on set of criteria with that. And then once you get the match, then you will get the information about this person. So you know where to send the groceries or other stuff. So that's what we built. So far, so good. We launched probably 4 months ago. And then now yesterday we got our 6,000th user who onboarded. And then we probably right now, last time I checked a couple of days ago, the total amount of help which went through our platform was in a ballpark of $70,000 US.
Wow, very impressive.
Yeah. So it's I was actually surprised that we get some virality in a Belarusian internet segment. So it helped us to onboard new users, and then we're building this in a very Amazonian fashion. And I have a few guys from Amazon actually helping me with that. So we are very customer centric. We listen to our users. We are trying to get some feedback and signals from them. So that helped. So that generally makes me feel good about myself, and that's how I spent my nights the past 6 weeks. In terms of technology, I guess, Raj, should we talk about the technology?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, no surprises. We chose AWS. It is just good. It's not me working for AWS. We don't get any preferential treatment or discounts. AWS just happened to be very good. And specifically, since I was not sure about traffic patterns, how many users we can onboard, we decided to go all in serverless. So we hooked this Telegram. So Telegram has its own API, but then it's hooked into your backend to implement the bot functionality. We exposed, all our compute is based on Lambdas. It's super cheap. It allows to scale. One of the coolest features, one of my initial concerns with Lambda was a warm-up period, but then we introduced this a new concurrency feature. Provision concurrency. So it helped me to always keep my Lambdas up. So, even if people didn't, touch bot for 30 minutes, the ones who's hidden, first after 30 minutes, this person doesn't experience any lag. So that's cool. And then in terms of, storage and the persistence, we're using DynamoDB. It's a pretty cool product, very cheap. I can tell you that we have a daily usage of about roughly 1,000 people are going through the platform on a daily basis and doing some actions, right? Including our a team of operations who are handling a lot of applications and onboarding new users on the platform. And then our run rate, so I'm paying right now for free environments, and we decided to go very enterprise-ish in the sense that we have different environments. We have our own cycle, right? So my run rate right now for the full infrastructure is $3 a day, and I know how to cut it to 150, and I think I can optimize. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So if you guys are looking to build some pet project, related to charity, volunteering, just check the serverless. It is very cheap, and you don't have to, raise a lot of money to, support your infrastructure or to pay it yourself. So highly recommended.
Excellent. So I guess the last question I have for you, Vadim, is can you get an AI/ML job as freshers, straight out of the college?
See, that was not my case. I do believe that you can get it from college. And again, it goes back to my previous comment about the college. College is great for you to learn fundamentals and learn how to interact with people, learn some things about the business. So it is a good experience, but college itself doesn't make you a good ML engineer or software engineer, right? You have to code yourself and build your portfolio. And in my opinion, when I'm interviewing people from from college, and we have this in AWS every summer, we have interns coming to us. My first question to the people who are applying to the engineering position is, what is your GitHub?
Right.
Because seriously, right? So if you're applying for this type of job, you have to build something, right? And then I understand when people don't have GitHub, but then in this case, I'd love to see how they can code or at least talk about the engineer and make sure people generally excited about like software engineering, machine learning. And when you're excited, then you will naturally want to build something, right?
Right.
So yeah, build your portfolio and then you can get the job straight after college. In terms of the colleges, I know that a lot of people, they fixated on very nice schools like the Stanfords of the world. In my opinion, that's really nice colleges, but again, on its own, it doesn't make you a good software engineer.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Actually, I get this question a lot, Vadim, as well, because you know me, like I came from a college in India, which is not like really top tier, right? So same for you.
Yep.
And I know Vadim didn't touch on it, but Vadim actually used to be a DJ, and right, and
That happened with me. Yep.
yeah, exactly. And then both you and me switched career, right? So it all gone are the days when you go to a nice college, get a nice degree, and you show the degree to the interviewer and they will hire you. That's not the case anymore because the technology is moving so fast. You have to keep up to date. You have to have the certifications. And if you study and put effort, anything is possible because the number of jobs out there, because cloud is still new, is a lot. Like if you look at, we talk about that a lot about my in other videos, how many LinkedIn jobs are out there for AWS, GCP, Azure. I hope you guys join AWS, of course. But like the thing is, there are so many positions that you can study and do it, right?
That's right. And like I said, with AI/ML, don't necessarily go with for the most sexiest job, especially if it's going to be your first job in the industry or in this particular domain. You want to do AI/ML? You can start as a data engineer and then work with the teams of AI/ML engineers and study from them, and then jump the ship. That's something I did myself. Right, within the AWS, I was not hired as an AI/ML. I was more hired as a consultant working on the project or program delivery. But then I developed the interest in AI/ML, and I built a relationship with my AI/ML counterparts within the AWS organization. And then at some point I said, guys, would you consider me to work with you as part of your team? And I said, yes, to come over.
Right.
So, yeah, don't go necessarily for the most sexiest job. Sometimes you just need to get your foot in the door, and then once you get there, then you will have a lot of freedom to choose what to pursue. Another thing, I just second the thing about cloud and AI/ML. It is we are in early days in the sense that I generally believe that IT in 20 years is going to be cloud. Like when you say IT in 20 years, you'll be talking about the cloud because, cloud gives you a lot of efficiencies. And from the customer standpoint, when we're talking with the customer, they all move into the cloud. Yes, granted, there are some customers who have resources and have a lot of, revenue and funding to build something bespoke. Right. But this, in my opinions, these are outliers. The general trend, the people will move to the cloud. So that's why I agree with you. I'm super bullish on cloud. So the cloud jobs will grow, and there will be different types of jobs. So if you are not feeling like super comfy with math, that's perfectly fine. Just choose something related to AML, right? I can give you a very specific example. Like a lot of enterprise customers these days, they are very interested to understand their biases or of AI and ML algorithms, right? They want to understand, they want to be able to explain algorithms. And that's kind of interesting job somewhere between like the media, the psychology, how people minds work, and then ML. It's a good intersection, and it is pretty hot area. So you may get this type of job having the psychology in your background, right? You just develop the interest, you learn about machine learning field, and that you will be a very interesting candidate for the jobs, because they are looking for diverse perspective. And speaking of diversity, so AWS, other large cloud providers, I know for a fact that they're doubling down on the diverse stuff. They want to hire diverse people, not necessarily by, diverse in terms of their skin color, but also with a very diverse backgrounds and the viewpoints. So, don't feel yourself, not confident if you're not coming with an engineering degree, right? So, and then ML is so new, right? Compared to the cloud, ML is even younger. Like it's a little tiny baby. So we don't know what type of problems we'll be solving in 5 years, right? Because 5 years ago, no one was thinking about making models explainable. Right. Everyone was like super thrilled that the models just a black box, you throw stuff and you get some magic. And then it was like, wow, this works like magic. Guess what? In 2020, this magical thing is not good, right? Enterprise customers I talk with, they don't want to have magic. They want to have a very explainable and predictable model. And they want to be, able to say, all right, this model is biased. Let's retrain it. Let's debias it, right? That's what enterprise is looking today. Now, in 5 years, they may be solving a very different types of problem. You don't know, right? But it's what it makes it exciting.
Right. Excellent. Well, before I end the show, Vadim, so how can people reach you? What's your preferred method?
Yeah, so I'll be happy if you guys have any questions. I have 2 ways to reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk with you. So one way is my LinkedIn profile. So I'll share it with Raj. So feel free to add me. I occasionally post some things there. One of my big goals for next year is actually to build more presence in the LinkedIn and build some new and hopefully exciting blog posts as part of the AWS ML blog. Highly recommend you, by the way, to subscribe, because we are working on a lot of enterprise and very practical problems. And then typically in the blog post, we're taking one practical problem and just showing how you can address this problem. So follow me on LinkedIn. Reach out on LinkedIn, follow AWS machine learning blogs, where I'm posting from time to time. And then, like I said, I'll try to post more. The other thing is that I already mentioned GitHub. So I'll be happy to share my GitHub profile. Feel free to sign up. Typically in this GitHub, I take either some problem I found exciting for myself, or I, have the customer asking for the specific thing, and then I'm trying to build some reusable collateral so everyone can use it. So yeah, feel free to follow me on GitHub. Have a question about code, leave the comment, raise the issue in the repo, create the pull request. Excellent. Typical thing.
Excellent. Well, Vadim, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule and chat and give some helpful tips and tricks to my viewers. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave some comments, questions. I'll put all the links in the descriptions. All right, with that, I'm gonna end today's show, and I'll see you guys and girls next week. Bye.